ebusian for aha Ghana Sem TV GH. Mesrel like, comment, subscribe. Then on notification also, so that anytime you post a video, it say where Usambeka ebi ama washe. Na busian for muni bibi. Pesa mi fa akunya we menda mu nyina ase. Be 2 days ni and I say 3 days ni. And me a video be a introduction ni mo no na make say baby I make videos no one enye. And that is the reason why we really need to get a studio and move and do better production. After saying that, I received a donation of 2,900 cedis. That's the highest donation I've ever gotten from a single person. And then also that day, I said, "Nipa mi nubi." I said, "Me thousand." But that was the day of biggest donation. That was the day of donations. It's in person me that money na say money mo support this cause. Any more mo share yen so mo send me a kasa personal money. I say kwa no studios carry cry me personal money cry come. Because obi send this car bia na me I take say studios car. Thank you all so much. I think we've gotten to almost 10,000 Ghana cedis. Almost got to 10,000, and the objective is 25,000 Ghana cedis. See, 15,000 Ghana cedis more to go. We trust God and we trust you. So boy. Now let's go to the story.
No mu say Ghana for ewo weakness. Enti no omoma asofo binomo no mutimi ye meeting etia Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Na se womo ba begina omo pulpit so a no mo preach say Akufo Addo say gay no one sign enti mokwa amuntu ntia won saa na no ye preaching wo Ghana enti ne edien na asesama obi a mususu se oba a obesan no ono ba be ka kire Ghana for say sa LGBT no enye priority for now edien na asesa the thing is clergy na ekogina mu ese wono no obetimi asan nti ema ono so come make pronouncement ewo Assemblies of God say wono we Assemblies of God member enu nti oba obe make sure say sa de no mo be sign no yes na nada roma time na so enti womra no mesan ye ni issue until then eye obi a your friend Igina Sare ena Lawrence Tetteh no wo make ho no me se wo mo beti heat o mo be feel heat o mo be feel heat e da ye pronounce ye say eye gonja mafia wini seat no Igina Sare jubilate ye o jubilate ye enti nano I said the what can no tuma on to me man bonte ma mekasa no
Mekasa
o pese o kire sen me se yanso ya hunu se ho no mo weakness ho ne yenso be ponche won ama Ghana fo ate se tunumu no wo mo gitu mu de kire se o ma pe so na me brother ni di kan game fo be gina a whole independence act ebe fi wo ma no ebe twa picture were they not aware say no mu ye game fo anase den enti yes Lawrence Tetteh na da roma me de medican atutu German me ma kakra na o ma be fa me de me ko che fiase because of say Oma who say man no den baby amefa bia no mu mute my account nso no kra de enkosi aga ya dwen say ye fight no na ye fight me no ka say ene da na Otek FM eye 102.9 e de beto ho say eye from mountain mu won subonto bia dane ama nipa 7 awu 2 ye hwehwe wona ye hunu won ena me bisa ban ya wate so yi say ever since ya obetena so the first time eno mu kosu 2 nipa 6 Anglo Gold ema omu wuye efiri ho ena nsorefo nkwala bia omu so omu ko program ka akonya accident ma nipa 16 ewuye efiri ho ena plane crash won mankasa nkrofo 8 eno mu so wuye efiri ho sumbonto ewo pandai side ho ekọ muntum ye ema enipa 19 e ka 4 15 ewuye edidi mu ana plane crash ema Hebron so fo ema bienu awu ena me no kasai another subonto ama eno nso so enipa 7 awu enti wo mu musuo
3 yi na nkan
yo sasa wo mu musuo ne ye too much afibia NBC fo baba bedi eye oman ne so no aye te se wasori anopa na woni mako no watia dabo agya na ma na dabo toilet mu bad news ngwa na wote Woman ya bedi oman su pelbeti meti mawu sese mi fie wo meti mawu sese mi fie wo menkwa ni fie de NDC wo mba wada o yeti yewu yakumari tuo NDC fo sese ye fie wo adai
abayifo
NDC bedi oman su se fam mesi wudi makokura nsese wudi makwa nsese akwaya te se ahemate da suom na opetu aba besi wudan so na waye mesi bad news nko na wobeti NDC for maybe samuo oman na mode akwakwahye he because mo kam ya te ase trumu ne emusuo mo ba ya mo nsan ye ntini nso hwere toto Ghana for no enti mo wi na mo nsan ne mfiri musuo no mo mfiri until then there asem bi ebesi bia ya mo na mo ye eye musuo na esinsen ye kom na LGBT amoya madwen se mo nsan no asem bi si a eho ne musuo ni firi eho ne ye de baba behye ye no mo ni tutu ni no a wo mo nkosan na ye ho ntoye na enuoma nkoyie me no kasa nyame ya dom a Monday nso eye fuel diesel 1 liter beko 18 cedis inti Ghana for obi anya we enti political zone ha me de man no besi.
He was a good man. He's still a good man, but he had no power. He had no locus.
Dr. Baumia had no power under
for some of the transactions, for some of the reasons. I mean,
he was the vice president. I mean, he's next to the president, for crying out loud.
Yes,
he was the chairman of the economic management team.
Yes, he was backing at the time, and he did back on the right issues. But I can recall that there were 2 or 3 transactions that we were privy to. That actually made me ask myself, what exactly does the vice president of a country actually do? Does he have power? In any case, look, it's not just with Ghana. There are other countries where you can be sure there are people who are powerful more than the vice. Even in the United States, if you look carefully, Marco Rubio is much more powerful than Vance, clearly. So there are things like that. It depends on how they use that power. You understand? So I wasn't entirely surprised, but I was a bit worried because I felt that if the vice president cannot have his way on the particular issue, like how to ensure that revenues at the ports were, protected, because there's a policy that was being introduced, and we thought that the vice president was on the right path. Apparently, the other side decided that.
Which is the other side? You mentioned 3 issues that you thought the vice president should have been in charge. So the ports one and what?
So relax. All right. So, so the port one for me was a major one. It was a decision about what policy was supposed to guide it, and I felt that I didn't feel he was respected in that regard, and somehow that those decisions also came back to bite the government. But there was one thing he did. I mean, we did an undercover work at the port, and we went to him and said, "Look, Mr. Vice President, we need you to own this because the port is bleeding." And he did one thing. He called everybody who mattered the ports, all the big guys. We met with them at the EMT. And within the short of alarm still, he got certain things done at the port, which lasted 3 months.
Okay.
For 3 months, all the crazy stuff that goes on at the port actually got reduced. But when a champion receipts and goes into some other, I mean, he was the eye, he was the, should I call it, he was a champion, but then other things took over. And before I realized, things started unraveling. But that's the way politics is, isn't it? There are other issues. I mean, I could go on to talk about even the policy on the, it had to do with something related to the fuel situation. I mean, some people were bunkering oil in the western region thereabout, and I recall telling him that he said, I just came from this place, and I said, where? He said, people are bunkering oil of the western region. I said, Mr. Vice President, why do you have to be doing this thing yourself? I thought the minister was supposed to do
the former
that.
vice president was there himself checking.
Well, to make sure.
Bunkering. Wow.
But of course, once he leaves,
back to basics.
And I said, but the ministers were supposed to do this job. You know, the moment you become too available at other places, people don't really, we think you actually do your work. And it wasn't long after, I think, was it when he had collapsed or something like that? Actually, before that, and I think when he came back, I said, look, you've got to hold on. there are things you can do. I'm not saying that he was reporting the other side to me, but we will have conversations. So we hear all sort of things. But I think that the vice president was a truly, he meant well for some of the. I think his nemesis was also because he thought that his theory of understanding of the economics was actually going to match the reality. I think that if they declared from the onset that look, the presidential jet has issues, but you see, we can't go and be hiring. My brother has a plane.
That's right.
We want to value. Look, Ghanaians, see this is the chart. I'll show you the chart. If I hire this plane from company B, it cost me 10 million. My brother is not going to charge me, but he wants me to pay for, and this is why I think this plane is even better than. So I'll pay this amount. These are the taxes due.
So presidency should be transparent and let us know.
They should have said this ahead. So that who will complain? You know, Ghanaians are a bit. They would answer. I know where they are. And you should go and give the money to some foreigner. If you make that argument, people will understand. You see, they will then say, "Oh, and there's your conflict of interest." Yeah. So just discuss that. That's one of the reasons I said. And then secondly, I felt that if you're the president, you're telling everybody that SOE that look, if you are going to travel, don't do this, don't do that. Then you have to give us reasons why you use them. By the way, I can add, I hope Ibrahim will forgive me. I said, I told her that frankly said, give me my plane. Give my plane. So I said, tell him, make him give my play. You know, so it's a jovial, but I think he understood that where I was coming from.
Okay.
That for me, if you had just declared and said, look, this
is it too late for him to do that?
Oh, if he's going to use it again, he should probably do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong at all. But there's a thing there. There's a thing. The difference between conflict of interest is a very fast thing, right? And it's difficult to. I don't think your brother would want to kill you. So.
Because people have talked about safety is the president of Ghana, security and all of that.
But you see, those are the things you lay out clearly. That look,
but
I
that's
am committing my life
because
the state's supposed to take care of you. But if you're using your brother's property,
correct,
then the state must understand, and there must be papers written to that effect.
That's right.
I've used my brother's plane. I'm declaring that if anything happens to me, it's my own. And that's it. These things don't cost a thing.
Okay.
Just as we have this conflict of interest code, we should just develop these things and then we are fine. You know.
Right. You know, you've been very direct. Do you worry that calling out power so boldly can come at a cost? Have you done that in the past and you thought that you lost something or maybe a family member was denied something? Or
no, not at all. The good thing about Ghana really is that I think we've reached that stage where, first of all, we don't get into battling people. We don't do name calls.
Yeah.
We are not gossipy, talking about people's private life. We don't do those things. We are not interested. So what we do clearly is policy. You understand that what we are dealing with you, we are not interested in your persona. We are just asking questions. Why? So people have been taking it. In other countries, people could do other things.
Ya sorry for you, bet na sorry de mo hono ma hwe nkwale ya mama pipa enkonwa ho ahwe nkwale yi sam enso ye nim wa bia ye de bo asafo enkwala ye bo asafo nimu apeja wo mo so de sigina pon bi sofo ba sorry na ode na ne bedru university ewo ye kan ordinate to kwan yakotena brocha ma na kwaye courses papa na wo ba Oma ba be nya adwuma papa bi edia ye na asafo man yegu asori ni mu saa ye nya moa bian frimu ene yakotokoto wo man ya ye omu nyankopon ote asase so na ye nyina na enim se TB Joshua dako ye be sori ama na wu ana ye nyina ye bewu enti ye susu mfa ye wre nhye saa asofo ya no kure
eniemu
bia ni wo mu no nyankopon asem a wo ka ye no se Wana bano ni ebehunu se de omu sitie no oma banana na omu yie no hwe nyankopon wade bia nti wo se ade bia yemfa aseda ma no no se nyankopon ama NPP Dr. Baumia elusu abeya nkan kofo nki ebehu se de omu suban sitie enkiye nhunu se de omu suban sitie da enne nyankopon na egu wo mu nyina ni mu ase nyankopon ni mu ase aka wo mu nyina wo mu da wo mu ketesu a omu ntime na ensema ekosuo ni nyina wo so wo monte ana o mote na ye papa a obeka asan enkwala enya adwuma da na ne sika na enkoye
enyi sika ena na enkoye omo ba ye obi ayi ne car sa ope ye de car sa kese de omo atutumu enu nti hu na ehu ani bre se ya mfa sika na anto cars ama wom anye wom papa one daddy ba akopɛ onyankopɔn ansi anamu wasas so enu hu abufuo na ehye wo mu anom de ye saa de anom de ye enye Ghana ho dɔ menua enye wa wote makura ase ho dɔ ena no wo ya ama wo ma selfish interest nti na no wo mo ye saa adwuma na no mo die no enne yakopɔn apa wo mu nyina ho ntoma animguase aka wo mo ye ka say Assemblies of God for muni principle bia muni credibility bia wasasi so mo mfa mo Bible na nto ho no se mo say mo nipa no Nyankopon na yi ni ma no wa no ma petehia ma nanim nyina apeja we say what Assemblies of God are sorry them no Assemblies of God ni eno nya ami asama hye ne ma muni principle bia mo mfa mo Bible na nto ho animguase aka mo Omo ba ye ya de bia ye hwia niema ade ama yesi asori dan tana ma wo wega mo se hwan ene waje ayi woji position a wote honum enim guase aka mo Nyankopɔ be hu mu nyina no monim guase e beba no enye nne ene ye be hu Nyankopɔ be gu so abremwase yo ya ne yakasa touch not my anointed ye nyina ye anointed ni bia Nyankopɔ honhom eti yensua mu bi
This time we go touch them.
ye be touch mo
We go touch them. This time around, we go touch them.